In this English lesson, we are going to learn about the life of a very famous American named Jesse Owens. He would go on to win 4 gold medals in the Berlin Games in 1936. This English lesson is going to have a little bit of everything. You will work on your English comprehension because I am going to be speaking fairly slowly, but definitely clearly. You will learn some new English vocabulary words, and you will learn a little bit about American history and American culture. So let's get right into the lesson. Jesse Owens was born on September 12th, 1913, in Oakville, Alabama. If you don't know where Alabama is, you can see that is the state in red. We would call this in the southeastern part of the United States. A very popular song in the United States is called Sweet Home Alabama. And right when you get into the state driving, you will see this sign, Sweet Home Alabama. Jesse's father was a sharecropper, and this might be a new term for you. A sharecropper is basically what it looks like in the picture. Someone who works on the land, but they don't actually own the land. Slavery ended in the United States in 1865. But of course, many of the people who had lived as slaves their entire lives did not have the education to get any kind of different job besides sharecropping. So for a long time after slavery ended, this might be the only way for former slaves and those who came after them, their children and their grandchildren, to make a living. Here, I have a couple sentences for you if you would like to practice your shadowing, because I am going to read them slowly and clearly. He would grow up to be one of America's greatest Olympic athletes. He won 4 gold medals at the 1936 Berlin Games. And here's a couple more sentences. Jesse had a big family growing up. He had 10 brothers and sisters. Jesse and his family would not stay in Alabama very long. They would move to Cleveland, Ohio when he was in his early teens. And one of the reasons they left is because in Alabama at this time and much of the American South, there would be something called segregation and Jim Crow laws. If you've never heard of segregation or Jim Crow laws, it was literally keeping Black people and white people separate. There would be separate water fountains for drinking, separate schools for Black and white children. This would become illegal about 30 years after Jesse and his family left Alabama, but they would take part in what is called the Great Migration, when about 1.5 million Black families would move to the north to try to escape the racial South, hopefully for better opportunities. Would Black families find more opportunities in the North? Yes, probably, because there wasn't legal segregation or Jim Crow laws there. But would they still encounter racism and prejudice? Yes, for sure. Here is a really long sentence you can practice your shadowing with. About 1.5 million African Americans left the segregated South for the North during the Great Migration for better opportunities. His family would move to Ohio, like I said, but if you don't know exactly where Ohio is located in the United States, it's that little red dot there in the middle. Sometimes we call that part of the country the Midwest. It is here in Cleveland where some major events would happen in Jesse's life. He would meet his future wife, and he would also find out he loved to run. Jesse met Minnie Ruth Solomon when he was 15 and she was 13. Together, they had 3 daughters. Jesse would spend the rest of his life with her. Spoiler alert, Jesse is going to die in 1980, but his wife is going to be right there with him by his side. It was in junior high or middle school that Jesse realized he had a love for running. In high school, he tied the world record of 9.4 seconds in the 100-yard dash. Jesse would attend college at a college called Ohio State, and their nickname is the Buckeyes. So on the left, there is a picture of a Buckeye. It's basically a nut that grows on a tree, but another Buckeye is actually a pretty famous kind of chocolate that has a peanut butter dot in the middle, and it looks just like a real Buckeye that comes from a tree. In my opinion, the chocolate one tastes much better. So Jesse was so good. In 1936, he would go to the Berlin Summer Olympics held in Germany. And I'll read that sentence below. Jesse would become famous at the 1936 Berlin Summer Olympics, where he would win 4 gold medals. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this guy. He's kind of famous. His name is Hitler. And in 1936, Jesse Owens, obviously he was black, went to the Olympics, dominated, won a bunch of gold medals. If you know anything about Hitler, you might know that he had this idea for a master race. And part of the master race was that they were all white. So Jesse going to the Olympics and dominating showed the world that no, it's not just white people who can be awesome, black people can be too. And hopefully Hitler had second thoughts about this whole master race thing. Unfortunately, I don't think he did. When you have second thoughts, it means you think again about what you think is right, and maybe you change your mind. We know that in just a few years, Hitler invading Poland in 1939 will start World War II. A lot of Americans like to think, we show them, right? A black man can compete. But it wasn't that great when he came home after the Olympics because race played a part in him not being able to find steady work. There was still a lot of prejudice and racism right here at home in the United States in the 1930s. Unfortunately, Jesse smoked about a pack of cigarettes each day. In 1980, he would die of lung cancer. He was only 66 years old. If you like learning in this way and you want to continue your English learning, check out this video I did about the state of Florida.